Saintess summons skeletons. By Morn. Extra 2, Slaves. In a decrepit shack, men were sleeping, piled up on the ground. Like others around him, the young man woke up to the strident ringing of a bell. Rise and shine, everyone. Same as usual, 3 minutes to grab your tools and get to work. The salt isn't going to mine itself. The Roman slaver in white robes said, repeating the same line he fed them every day, before leaving with his accursed bell. The young man wanted to kill him. To rid the earth of this scourge and escape. For months already, he had been there. Every day was the same. The shack, the quarry, the whip, the pain, the gruel, the shack. But he could only submit. The chains at his feet wouldn't let his fate be otherwise. And neither would the 2 towering guards the fat man employed. Every passing day he felt weaker. Perhaps his end was near. As a miner, he had little value, no one would care if he died, not even his owner. As he left the shack, he threw a longing glance at the last piece of freedom he had, a name he had carved for himself in the shack's wall, hidden in the corner he always slept in. Innocentes. All he could afford was a weak smile. His smile froze. His muscles cramped. He hadn't yet left the shack today, and he never would. He screamed. The slaver turned around, frowning. Shut him up. But he didn't hear. His body was nothing but pain. He had survived the strain of the work, the heat of the sun, the crack of the whip. But this was what broke him. For the first time in his life, he wished he were dead. Piece by piece, shred by shred, his body was gored by an invisible hand until his being was but a thought. Time stopped, the world stopped turning. Who would know what had really happened to him? His body had to have become a pile of warm flesh and blood. As he felt the world and his being fracture in a torturous unison, his last remnants of sanity faded. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, Michael. Happy birthday to you. The whole family rejoiced as Michael blew on his 16 candles. Happy birthday, son. His father, a middle-aged worker at a bakery, had been the one to prepare him a sumptuous cake. He was also the one to bring out his present, dragging it in the living room. It was nicely wrapped in shiny blue paper, with a red ribbon on top, but it was painfully obvious what it was. His mother was recording everything on her phone. She didn't want to miss a single frame of her son on his special day. She was so proud of him. He had worked hard to deserve his present. They were a rather poor family of 7. So he had worked himself to the bone at school. His grades earned him a paid scholarship at a prestigious college 2 years before most kids his age finished high school. You bought me a scooter. No way. He leaped off his chair. In a sickening crunch, his face hit the hard ground. Through a bleeding mouth, he howled like a banshee. His mother's phone hit the ground. It was another regular day at her desk. Filling the last lines of her tax report, she wrote her full name one more time. Gabriela Garcia Fontes, and signed next to it. She quickly gave a last look at her editing work for the day. As a branding photographer, making sure her images were clean and crisp, free of any defect, was as important as taking them in the first place. The clients didn't care if the final product didn't look like the real thing anymore. In fact, they often asked that it does not. A young blonde-haired boy knocked on the half-opened door. Her son, her everything. Mom, are you working late again? When do we eat? She looked at the clock and gasped. Already 7. Sorry Mateo, Mom is coming right now. She rushed out of her office and into the kitchen. In a few steps she reached the oven's side, and searched through the cupboards. What do you think about Mom's special Italian pasta today? She asked, triumphantly shaking a pack of spaghetti. I think Mom's. She never heard the end of his answer. Minato was driving a truck through the sinuous outskirts of Tokyo. His family owned a moving company. his whole job was maintaining the trucks while they weren't being used. Cleaning, repairing, refueling, all nice things he loved to do. His trucks were his babies. He wasn't driving all that fast, rather slowly even. The last thing he wanted was to cause damage to the surroundings and, most of all, his precious vehicle. But as his soul left him, departing through the torrents of hell for another world, grasped and savagely ripped from his body, presumably by God himself, no one could stop his truck anymore. Near a comfortable bed, layered with many sheets, a peculiar-looking man held his wife's hand. She had always been slender, but these last few months had been hard on her. However, she had never been this happy. He caressed her bulging belly. "And what if it's a girl?" he asked. "Then I'm thinking we should name her after your grandmother." Coolly. That had filled the man with joy for an instant. Then his wife's hand had limped out of his. Her eyes were glazed over. And she disappeared. The hero awoke on the cold, hard, polished stone floor. They were surrounded by 4 large men in shining armor. Nearby was a nobly dressed young woman, panting on the ground. No one provided help to either of them. An old man in even more indecently luxurious robes stepped out of the shadows. "Welcome, hero. I shall now grant you a new name." Chapter 31, Filters. Saint's indolence, a saint's duty is never ending. Halves the saint's need for sleep. Part of a 7-piece set. Item level, 60. Grade, Ancient. Restriction, class must be Saint. Current set effect, 2 recover 1 health per second when sitting or lying down. Wouldn't it be better for the Empire's Saint to have this? Nyeh, Aaron? She's the one who gave it to me. The guild master laughed by herself. She puffed her chest, put her hands on her hips and started talking in a deeper voice with a constant deep frown on her face. "Get rid of this wretched thing. Merely having it nearby is destroying my sleep. Please, for the love of all that is sacred key, smuggle it away and burn it in a hole so that I never have to see it again," she recited, playing out a scene long past. Then she came back to her regular self. "That's more or less how it went, so don't worry about a thing, you can take it." Alith interjected, "Are we really going to forget what just happened?" The guild master sighed. "Ah. Listen, this isn't my proudest moment either," I said. "I'm sorry, I am, it really shouldn't have hurt her nearly that much. But this is nothing, if you're going to face the trials, you need to be ready for far worse. And it is a lesson all free saints have to learn. A necessary evil. Heroes don't ask to be summoned, you should know that very well. This is how it feels. What happens to you when you're going about your daily life, and suddenly, congratulations! You have unlocked the class slave. Here's a traumatic experience you will never forget, with an added foreign world and your family gone as a bonus. If you're a saint, summoning people, then this is something you need to know. To experience it at least once before you force it on others. I'm genuinely surprised you would defend her so. I wonder how your third member must feel about it. Then again, I went overboard this time, and I'll make it up to you, Sofia." Alith was fuming. "You're the one inflicting traumatic experiences. What right do you have to go around doing that exactly? Can you see with your eyes? Do you think she looks fine right now?" she yelled. She was met with the guildmaster's contorted, weary, rueful smile. Cooley was looking at the sky through the windows. "I've tried a lot of things in my time. More than I ever thought would be necessary. Saints, I've met quite a few, not all one and the same to be sure. This is the only way that has never failed to get the message across. A necessary evil. If I knew of a better way. And this is just a drop in the bucket. I have done worse things, unspeakable things, and I will keep doing so. Blame me if you will. If someday you get there too, you will learn that there isn't ever a way to make everyone happy. It's a foolishness I gave up on centuries ago. Sofia wasn't all that disgruntled about the whole experience, although she still felt like the world and her thoughts were a bit shaky. Her summons didn't work like that, and she was glad for it. It wasn't her first share of the world's cold unfairness, and it wouldn't be the last. Physical pain, at least, was quick to heal. And whatever she just drank it had helped immensely on all fronts. This whole guild master of an enemy empire was a risky deal from the start, and she knew it. In the back of her mind, she was almost glad this had been what had come for her, instead of being sold back to the church as a war hostage. Just two people doing what they have to do. Comparatively, Alith had been much harder to get to calm down, and even when Sofia insisted that it was fine, it took her a while to be fine with it. Even suspecting that Cooley had drugged Sofia, and not relenting until she was shown the drink's system description. Anyway, don't worry about the bracelet, the potion you just drank was worth several thousands too, she added, patting Sofia's head. Now, 2 level 99 youngsters seeking advice. I assume you were here to learn about the towers and trials? I see that got your attention. Want the long or the short version? Short. Long, please. Ah. I'll go for an in-between then. Can you stand up? Nay, I'll carry you, hup, Cooley said. She lifted Sofia like she was a weightless paper sheet and laid her down on a couch that was already overflowing with all sizes and shapes of crochet turnip plus highs. She then sat down in a small rocking chair and explained, the filters are exactly what the name entails. They're trials to weed out the weak and the unworthy. If you fail, you can never level up again. If you pass, you're good to go until the next filter comes up. There is no first filter acknowledged by the system. Some people think it's getting a class, I think it's birth, it doesn't matter much. Every other filter that we know of are trials. There's one at level 99, one at 199, one at 249, one at 299, and it goes on with a trial for every 50 levels. This is what stops most high-level people from going even higher. It was Sofia that interrupted. Does everyone need to go through that? Yes and no. You could choose to never do it. But every sentient being has to face the trials to go through these level break points, unless they were born at a high level. Most elves, vampires, and such are already over level 100 at birth. It's like this for a lot of the more intelligent magical creatures, Cooley answered, sounding a bit jealous. Is it dangerous? Alith pressed on. It is extremely dangerous in most cases. Failure does, not always, but often, result in death. But I can't tell you what exactly your trial will be. No one can. It's different for everyone, except for the general theme. In your case, the theme for the first trial is, the past. That's it. It can be anything, but it will be related to the past. Yours, someone else's, the world's, it could be any of that and more. You can't prepare in advance, so all I can say is, just go. The level 99 one is the easiest, about 2/3 of the people make it, and very few actually die from it. Her tone suddenly got darker. It's when you're at the next one that you should worry. Is it bad that I'm getting a bit excited at the idea of this trial? It makes my blood boil thinking about it. Fighting for your life and your right to become stronger. Alith had more questions. You said you can't level up anymore if you fail, does that mean you can only try once? That's right, once per filter, no redos. Even if you change your class afterwards and have to come back from level 1, you will never be allowed to challenge the trial again. She seemed lost in thought for a second until she added, oh, and if you want to change class, wait no, neither of you can do that. Well, just to say you can't anymore after the second filter. Sorry to ask, but then, are you stuck at a filter 2 right now? Sofia inquired. Cooley didn't mind, she showed no shame in her answer. I am. I've stagnated at level 299 for a long time. I just can't find the strength to go. You'll understand if you reach this point. The trials, they hammer you, to fit a new mold, the shape of a stronger you. It's intense. Not something someone sane wants to go through. I will go, when I've done all the things I need to do. The tiny guildmaster started brooding for a second, then suddenly changed subjects. Do you both know how to read a map? Use a compass? Make a fire? Nothing can prepare you for what's in there, but survival skills can be needed depending on the trial. Also, you should invest in better gear, and level up your skills as much as possible before going in. It won't help you in there, but that likely won't be wasted, whatever happens, Cooley advised. Can you tell us about your trials? Alith asked Cooley in a curious mood. It seemed that since Sofia really didn't want to press the matter about the unrequested lesson, she tried her best to accept it. No. And most would answer the same way. Think of it as a private event, tailored both for and against you by the system. Cooley shifted in the chair and adjusted her robes. That's it for the general information on trials. Anything else? Alith and Sofia had a lot of questions about a lot of things, from the rewards of the trial to the best classless skills. It was impossible to find anything that the fuzzy-eared guildmaster wasn't knowledgeable about. They also went over a lot of more mundane things with her help, from what books they should read to become better at certain things to which shops were the best to visit in the capital. There were things that she was a bit reluctant to give too many details on, such as how everyone else leveled up or who were the strongest people on the human continent. However, when questioned by Sofia about them, she did hint at vampires being a very strong bunch. Despite the rough first contact, the tense atmosphere of the start had been slowly but surely replaced by the heat of petty gossip. When all serious questions had been answered and Sofia had fully recovered, the counseling devolved into a relaxing tea party. It seemed that no matter how strong, no one was immune to small talk and ranting about their life and opinions. That was until Sofia remembered to ask about a very particular thing she hadn't mentioned yet. Oh, I forgot to ask, do you know anything about the deep eye? She was cut off by Cooley, who had rushed to place her hand on Sofia's mouth at an incredible speed, flinging the table aside on her path. Sofia had heard the deafening ringing of a gong, and everything had stopped. The table stopped in its flight, hanging in the air, the whole scene absolutely still. Sofia couldn't even breathe. Immobile, Cooley's eyes were centimeters away from hers, staring. She heard the guildmaster's voice in her mind. Are you crazy? Do you want us all dead? Yelled a frightened Cooley in Sofia's head. Some things are better left untouched, her panicked voice added. Everything turned back to normal. No flying table, no tea spilling everywhere. Sofia could finally breathe again. The only trace of what happened were the tense muscles on the guildmaster's face. Oh, okay, well, it does answer the question in a way. Did this fighter casually stop and turn back time? I thought I had a strong trump card with Angel's Bolt, but I'm starting to really doubt my capabilities. Can I also stop time and teleport before I reach level 300? The discussion was soon back to pointless prattle about sewing between Alith and Cooley as if nothing happened. Apparently she had handcrafted all of the plus highs in the room. They kept chattering all the way until the receptionist knocked on the door, worriedly suggesting to the guildmaster to prepare for her next meeting. The group left with the agreement that they would come back and have another talk at some point before they challenged their second trials at level 199. Cooley even gave them a letter of introduction to pass to a certain artisan. Chapter 32, Investments. Sofia and Alith followed Cooley's directions through the meandering alleys of Drakran all the way to a rustic-looking smithy, built against the city wall. The smoking forge's chimney had left a black trail of soot on up the wall. Carlson's blades. That's it, said Alith. Do you doubt Cooley's advice? Not really. But I expected something else, I guess. Can we enter? The door looks unlocked. Alith went in, slowly opening the door. The inside was as sober as the outside, a few weapons sitting against the walls, piles of ingots and scrap metals in every corner. In the back of the small shop, a very burly man with brown rabbit ears was tamping down sand in a rectangular wooden vat. The brown fur came all the way down to his shirtless chest and agglomerated in an imposing beard all around his face. Sofia was looking at the ears first and had to do a double take to fully understand the man's musculature. His arms are bigger than my legs. What does this guy even eat to look like that? Aren't rabbit people usually all small and skinny? Artisan, LV.100 plus. That's not your regular small-town smith, all right. Excuse me, sir. Hello, I'm Alith and this is Sofia. We're coming on a recommendation from the Adventurer Guild's Guildmaster, Alith tried, brandishing the sealed recommendation letter. The man took the letter and snapped the wax seal open. A frown appeared on his previously inexpressive face, getting deeper the more he read. Goddamn old witch! Giving me more work again. Can't she stop breaking her shit for a month? The incensed man shouted. He balled up the letter and threw it in the forge's hearth. Only after that did he seem to remember how he got the letter in the first place. He turned back with a sorry expression. I must apologize, ladies, that wasn't against you. Name's Carlson, smith for 80 years and counting. Welcome to my shop, he said with a friendly smile, holding out his right hand after shaking off the sand from it. I always thought I had rather large hands, but I'm still a woman after all. The rabbit man's handshakes weren't anything special besides his hands being rough and large. The difference in size with Alith was quite comical. So, what may these two young ladies be looking for at? Let's start with the weapons. I can't wait to ditch the kitchen knife, said Alith, already looking around for something better. A kitchen knife? Carlson repeated. Can anyone reach level 99 fighting with a kitchen knife? You lot must have quite an interesting story to tell. You can pick anything in here and it will be an upgrade, I can guarantee that. Actually, I don't see anything that's like what I want. Can I have something custom made? Alith asked. That will cost you extra. What do you have in mind? Alith walked to a rack with farming tools, and grabbed a sickle. Something like that but with a longer handle. She showed the length with her hands, and sharpened on both sides. I want a pair of that. Can that be done? So a shorter and lighter war hammer but bladed. All right, I can see how you would fight with that. Any request for specific materials? The smith kept going while he searched around his workshop for a notebook he only found when he was done talking. Something light and fireproof for the handles would be nice. I don't know anything about metal, so, Alith answered, clearly not in her element. Let's do this the other way around then. How much can you pay? Regular old wood and steel would cost you 5 gold per, that's only the smithing price. I can make these pretty fast. If you want to invest more. Since it won't require a lot of metal, I can offer you meteoric iron, that's about 50% sturdier than my regular steel. Price would be 10 gold coins for a blade. So 15 for the whole weapon. 30 for 2, he estimated. What if we want something better? Sofia intervened. We have so much money, might as well. Well, the next options are a lot more expensive. There's a lot of choice, but for what you need and with what I can get. You can have orichalcum blades for 100 gold coins each. Sturdier, sharper, heavier, and can be enchanted to great levels, but I don't have any right now. I can get some in 2 weeks if you want that. Carlson said as he handed Alith a pink dagger. That's an orichalcum dagger, your blade would be like that, maybe with a bit more curve. Then he presented another option. And the other decent choice would have to be mithril-coated titanium blades. Forever sharp, lightweight, essentially unbreakable, magic-resistant, will cut through most anything. But it cannot be enchanted in any way, and you need a mithril-coated sheath to go with it. That's 300 gold a blade, sheath included. For this price I can get you a good magic wood for free to make the shaft out of. So what will it be? Can we see a mithril-coated weapon first? Sofia asked while Alith swung the pink dagger around. No, don't have any left, and the last bit of mithril I have is barely enough to make these combat sickles. You can have a look at my hammer though, the head is fully mithril. I've been using it every day for over 20 years and it still looks good as new, the man said, grabbing and showing an inconspicuous smith hammer with a green-tinted head. It does look brand new, Sofia agreed. Well, look. Carlson grabbed what looked like an iron ingot, placed it on his anvil and struck the cold metal with his hammer. The resonating strike caught Alitha's attention too. The hammer had penetrated the ingot, leaving a deep hammer-shaped hole in the now deformed and widened ingot. Carlson presented the hammer again. See, not a trace. Was the ingot actually made of mud? We'll go with that, Sofia said decisively. That prompted a large smile from the burly rabbit smith. It took Alith a few seconds to come back from the stupor of what she had just seen the smith do. She turned to look at Sofia, wide-eyed. That's 600 gold. Did you leave your brain at the guild? We have a lot more to buy. I'm not even that good with weapons, she protested. What more to buy? Do you think the 300 gold we'll have left isn't enough? It's my money and I'll buy what I want, Sofia decreed, and her words were final. We need a few other things, she added, addressing Carlson. Do tell. I see how it is, Alith murmured, shaking her head in disapproval. She rolled her eyes seeing how Sofia ignored her and decided to go have a look at the smith's creations instead. I need a buckler and a flanged mace, all steel, Sofia continued. You can get that on the racks behind, prices are on M. Anything else? We'll take a set of light plate armor for her, if you have anything that fits, the less hindrance on her mobility the better. And then I have another custom order for you. I have all sizes of steel plate armor in stock, gambesons and all included, although for the lady's size she won't have a lot of choice in terms of the design, said Carlson apologetically looking down at Alith, but they all let you keep a good mobility. What's that other order about? An armor for yourself, he asked Sofia. Indeed, there are a few quirks to it however. I need a tight-fitting gambeson to wear under my armor, she started. All good so far, Carlson pointed out as he started to write this down in his notebook. It needs to have a hood that can hold my tied hair and still protect most of my head, the kind that's closed at the neck. It also needs to have sewn-on gloves and be of entirely one piece, which ties into the last and most important point. It doesn't need to protect against regular weapons, but it needs to be fireproof and give good protection against very high heat. That's it. This is no big deal, I have more than enough salamander hide in stock. How does 50 gold sound? Since you want it to be hyper-focused on heat resistance, I won't have to treat it all that much. These beasts swim in lava all year round. I'll take it. Meanwhile, Alith, whose opinion apparently didn't matter, was looking at all the weapons exposed in the shop. Carlson finished writing in his notebook. Will that be all? He asked. Sofia nodded. All right, so. The 2 sickles, plate armor, salamander gambeson. That will be 670 gold coins. You can pay half now and half at delivery or everything now. Since the old monster sent you, I won't charge you the few golds for the mace and buckler. Pick any from these racks over here, he explained, gesturing at one of the walls. Thank you. I will pay half now. We still need a few days before we receive the rest, but we will have it. When can we expect it to be all done? You're most welcome. Give me a week, mithril is hard to work. I need your measurements too. What kind of armor will you wear over the gambeson? The business talk ended with Sofia showcasing her bone armor skill. Carlson was very interested in the peculiar design. Chapter 33, End of Leisure. The first few days after meeting with Carlson were still spent in a serious manner. Planning the next trip, buying some useful books, replacing some of the old traveling gear and getting a full set for Alith. It was after Sofia delivered the filled blood vial to the Vasparian embassy that her memories went a tad blurry. I need to set rules for myself. For my own good, really. No more drinking with a ghost. You just can't win. Drinks, food, useless jewelry, baths in a private luxury onsen, they lived like queens for 2 days. Pretty much all of their remaining money was gone, all they had left was the budget they had locked for the incoming trip. Maybe no more drinking in general. Sofia thought, playing with the hot sand that trickled out of her pendant. What a dumb storage item. They had tried to get a storage item for a lith too, but the cheapest they could find was already at a 500 gold price. The sun-shaped pendant that filled itself with sand really was a one-of-a-kind wonder. If I live long enough in one place I can make myself an inland beach, but without the sea. Wait, that's just a desert. She shot a glance at Alith, who was still sleeping on her own bed. A necklace with a moon-shaped pendant was tied around her slender neck. She looked much better now than she did the day Sofia summoned her, although her general build didn't change. A good clean-up and fitting clothing made a world of difference. Carlson had delivered the finished weapons and armor to the inn in person early in the morning. Alith hadn't seen them yet. She looks good in traveling clothes, better than me. I'm kinda jealous that her hair is so easy to work with. Sofia had contemplated cutting off her wavy golden hair many times, but she never had the guts to do it. She liked it the way it was despite how impractical it could be. At least now she had bought enough hair accessories that she could tie it properly and it wouldn't get all messed up inside her helmet like it used to. A steel mace and a buckler. That's what Cooley recommended, but I have no idea how to use them. Just hit the batas, I guess. The salamander shirt thing looked very weird by itself, the deep red color didn't help at all. But it had been made to the specifics she wanted, and the craftsmanship was excellent. She had no idea how it was even made. No matter how she looked she couldn't find a seam anywhere. It wasn't the most flexible thing ever, not exactly lightweight either, but the fire protection was top-notch. Wearing it, the sleeves that ended in gloves were perfectly fitted to her arms. She could now imitate Alith by leaving her hand in the fire all she wanted. She didn't even feel the heat. I need to pray that it will be enough to handle Angel's bolt. If not, then it should still help anyway. I don't like that I'm getting used to the burns. For something that isn't made to resist cuts, it still holds its ground. I couldn't even leave a scratch with the knives. But I'm never wearing it without the armor. It's way too ugly. The sun was already high outside, the weather had been getting hotter the last few days. It's the beginning of summer soon, the perfect time for a boat trip. The groggy voice of a certain heavy sleeper came from behind. You disguising as a bald imp? With the guildmaster's advice, Sofia and Alith sought out a high-level space mage working for the city. For 20 gold he could send you to any major city within the country with a single skill. It would allow you to skip weeks of traveling, so all things considered it was pretty cheap. Mage, LV.100 plus. This guy must be filthy rich too. Despite the high price, they still had to wait in line for their turn in the city hall. There weren't that many people, but the blue-clothed mage had to wait for his mana to regenerate every time. The actual teleportation felt exactly like the ritual to get in and out of Zangdar. You didn't even notice it happening and you were already somewhere else. Isn't summoning like teleporting? Why does summoning hurt so much but teleportation doesn't? Does it have to do with them coming from another world? I don't want to believe Zangdar is in our world and it's painless to go to, so it might not be that. How did that elf get the keyring in the first place? Sofia was lost in her thoughts near the teleportation platform, looking at the ocean from the window. She was waiting for Alith to be sent there too. So this is what the sea smells like. It's nice, Alith said as soon as she appeared on the platform. She wasn't wearing the new plate armor, instead sporting shorts that basically didn't cover any leg and a wide blue shirt several sizes too large. Sofia had been roped into buying more clothes too, but she valued the space in her backpack, so there wasn't much. Still, she had opted for a lighter button-up shirt today. The coastal cities in the south were notorious for their hot weather. And on that front, the city of Dural they had teleported to didn't disappoint. Sofia was already sweating in her dark leather pants. She checked her persistent system message. Please proceed to the trial site, Saints Tower of Vakaragan, distance, 522861 m. The teleportation was over 200 kilometers. We need to find some countermeasure against space magic as soon as possible, Sofia said with a bitter smile. Anything related to space is too strong. Look at your bone armor, space magic included for storage, and you can even store Parath in there. Maybe there's classless skills related to space magic we can learn, might be something to look out for, Alith answered, visibly not quite as worried. She was already heading towards the exit. Dural was a lively fishing and trading city. It felt nothing like the cold and dense capital. Here everyone looked happy as they went around doing their own thing. The streets were peculiar as it looked like 1 out of 4 buildings was actually some sort of tavern or bar. It was still early morning but everyone was out drinking. Everything had sustained the erosion of the sea salt, be it the wood and stone of the buildings, or the tan skin of the inhabitants. It would have been a very enjoyable place to stay. Were it not for the fact that they had to find a boat fast. And that Sofia was nauseated by the omnipresent smell of fish that had assaulted her nostrils the second she had stepped outside. You all right? If you're already seasick when we're not even on the boat, this is gonna be a long trip, Sof. Alith expressed her worries, seeing how Sofia had trouble even walking straight. Does the smell really not bother you? Sofia asked in return. Not worse than some of the medicine I used to make. Alith shrugged as she recalled her past. You have way too much of a sensitive nose if you ask me. Yug. Whatever, let's find a damn boat and be out. You know what, go back inside the city hall, k? Didn't smell there. I'll get us a boat and come back to grab you. Shouldn't take too long. Our max budget for the boat trip's still 20 gold, right? Hand it over, Alith said. She grabbed the purse Sofia took out of the sun pendant and walked towards the docks. Alith came back after about 2 hours. To Sofia's surprise, she didn't lead her to the city docks but to a small bay hidden between the large palm trees in the city's outskirts. There wasn't even a real road to get there. They had to follow the beach for a while, trudging through the yellow sand. A galleon was in there, many cannons lining the sides, signs of obvious repair everywhere. A group of rugged men covered in tattoos were currently loading barrels onto the ship. Say, Alith. No matter how I look at it. That's a pirate ship, isn't it? Damn right. Captain said he could get us to Safen in 4 days, free of charge as long as we help in case of an attack. Well, we still need to pay for the food, Alith confirmed with an enthusiastic smile. Attacks? Like from the Empire's navy. It was one of the crewmen that had been approaching them when he saw the girls that answered Sofia. He looked less crude than the others, and wore some kind of military uniform with large frills. More like sea monsters. Ever heard of the giant flame crabs? Name's Crane, the man continued, bosun on this OL blood whale. Welcome aboard, Mrs., we'll be in your care for this trip. Chapter 34, Saint of the Sea. This my room, you be sleepin' here till we reach the Safen Islands, Crane announced. I be somewhere else. Don't think I need to explain what the bucket's for, we got you a clean one, ain't that a nice touch? That's appreciated, Sofia agreed. It was easier on her nose, although the ship in general was cleaner than she'd hoped. No and much. Aight, so, few rules, no fire, if we be attacked you come runnin' on deck, don't play with the weaponry, you can go pretty much anywhere that ain't the storage rooms, less you need to be there. And don't go stealin' stuff that ain't yours, Crane explained with an uneasy expression. His speech done, he started leaving. Wait, what about water and food? Sofia asked. Well, the meals, you can't miss 'em really. I'll show you to the water, it's for drinkin' only, mind you. After leading them to the water barrels, he left to do his own bidding. Sofia and Alith took the time to explore the ship a bit more after that. There wasn't anything all that interesting. Ropes, chains, hammocks, cannons, and barrels. Lots and lots and lots of barrels. They wondered how they would be able to see anything at night without fire. The boat couldn't sail yet, they were waiting for nightfall for some reason. Sofia didn't feel exceptionally safe on an unknown pirate ship. By now she had identified almost everyone on board, only the captain was nowhere to be seen yet. Sofia was surprised that despite her constant use of Identify it hadn't leveled up a single time. Besides, the skill was weird, the amount of information it gave on objects varied greatly from one to the other. Some had flavorful descriptions like in a book, while some others were purely practical. By now she had a list of the different object grades she knew of. The worst one was bad, which she thought meant the object failed at doing what it was designed for and had no value, such as a broken chair, something like that. Next was regular, then valuable, followed by precious, which were self-explanatory. And on the side was ancient, that had popped up on the vampire vial and the saint-related items, as well as forgotten, of which the Ring of Zangdar was the sole example yet. Meanwhile people still only showed a vague approximation of their class and their level. With a precise level for people under 100 and a simple 100 plus, 200 plus etc. for the higher levels. Most sailors were artisans around level 50, a few were fighter classes, and the level 82 quartermaster was the only mage. Crane was a level 7 supporter class and the lowest level on the ship, but everyone still looked up to him with respect. Must be doing his job real well. And then there were Alith and her. The whole pirate crew was apprehensive of them, the lively clamor on the ship toning down whenever they were around. "'Cause they know our level, I guess? Wouldn't expect us to protect them otherwise. Hopefully nothing happens on the way. Don't want to have to show Perith. If someone could accept a necromancer it'd be a pirate crew." With nothing to do, they lingered on the deck. "I'm not kidding, this was the best option by far. Want to spend 8 days in Fish City for the next ferry?" "That's what I thought," Alith said. Sofia couldn't hide her expression of disgust at the idea. "Where's my poker face skill when I need it?" "Okay, you win, I'm already on the ship anyway." "It's not even that bad, just not what I expected," Sofia said with a sigh of defeat. The sound of heavy boots hitting the wood came from the side. Someone was climbing the ship. The person in question started talking before they could even be seen from the deck. "What was it that you expected then? Isn't this blood whale of mine good enough?" the man asked in a loud and jovial voice. Despite the cheery attitude of the unseen man, a chill ran through Sofia's spine. She could feel him. "Hero, LV 133. The man gradually appeared as he kept climbing. He was a broad-shouldered man in his 30s, everything about him screamed unkempt, be it his long coarse hair, his bushy black beard or his hairy fat belly. Sofia felt that if this man claimed that he wasn't a pirate no one in this world would believe him. He sprouted more tattoos than she could count on the exposed skin of his arms and torso, and had visible scars everywhere, even his face. Has this man never met a healer? Something with more beds and less sweat, maybe. Your ship still beats having to swim, I guess, Sofia humored the unknown hero using a similar tone. Come on, hammocks are nice. Didn't think it was nice enough to have a saint travel around sleeping in them, but still. Glad to see not every one of y'all's a nasty haughty cunt. Ahaha, he said as he finished climbing up, laughing by himself. Suddenly I feel like maybe being a necromancer isn't that bad of a public image. This one isn't teleporting around everywhere, at least. Kinda annoying how the hero class hides what their specialty is. Finally on the deck, the man nodded to Alith, who nodded back and extended a hand for Sofia to shake. His hand wasn't nearly as rough as she imagined it would be. You must be Sofia, then. Never thought I'd say this to a fucking saint of all people, but nice to meet you. Looks like you actually give a shit about the people you kidnap, the man said. He kept smiling through it all. Am I getting praised by a pirate of all people? Not any mere pirate, the great Captain Zero himself. I'm a pirate with morals, he recited from heart, striking a strange pose with his chin up. Then he looked at his bare wrist. Oh, but look at the time. We have to go soon or we won't catch the afternoon drift, he said to himself, before taking a deep breath. Cray-a-a-a-a-on. We good to go yet? The bosun ran up to the foredeck where they all were. "Yes, Captain. Everything's loaded and we're not missin' anyone, even Kent managed to come back in time for once," he said, shooting a thumbs up to the man up in the crow's nest that had been watching the scene, and who answered in kind. "We ready to go any time," Crane finished. Zero clapped his hands loudly. "Everyone in place, we're going in 2 minutes." Like clockwork, the 20-plus sailors on deck stopped their casual chatter and got to work. "I suppose none of you is used to standing on a moving boat?" the captain asked. Seeing as he got no answer, he grabbed both girls by the wrists. "Aight, come inside, don't want to see a young girl go overboard and drown so early in the trip." He led them all the way to the captain's cabin. His grip wasn't rough, but they couldn't free themselves at all if they tried, which they both did at first before looking at each other and giving up. Zero let them go when they reached the cabin. It offered a wide view of what was behind the ship, so a lot of tall tropical trees at the moment. "I'll have you stay here until you can at least stand without trouble," the captain explained. "I'm standing just fine right now," Alith retorted. "We're still docked. Of course you'd be able to stand up. Wait until we catch the drift, you'll be thanking me later for taking you inside," Zero said as he kept laughing by himself. Sofia sat down on a chair near the walls. There were a lot of books stored in the wall cabinets. The chair is stuck to the ground? Boat thing, I suppose." Alith and Zero kept talking. It didn't take long for their conversation to turn to a hero talk that Sofia could no longer understand. At some point the system was censoring so many words that whole sentences were inaudible. Sofia gave up on trying to make sense of the obfuscated topics and just grabbed a random book from the glass cabinets adorning the walls. "Stranded, yet again." By S. Bonnet. It was an asinine read. The boat had been steadily advancing through the waves for a while now. Sofia was almost falling asleep on her chair when someone yelled from outside the cabin. "Drift! Hold on to your chairs." Chapter 35, Drifting. Zero didn't wait for the girls to react and was already transforming into a man of wood, fusing with the ship's boards. His skin was turning to bark, his legs and arms grew long roots, plunging into the depths of the blood whale. "Girls, this is going to shake a lot, and we could have something or someone waiting for us at the end, so be ready," the captain expressed, as even his face turned wooden. Alith was already tightly holding onto her chair, but Sofia looked more relaxed. "Way of the Fool will prevent me from falling whatever happens, won't it? I'll go to the window, wanna see what these drifts are." Both Alith and the captain were surprised at Sofia's lack of care for the situation, but they said nothing. All she could see from the cabin's large windows was the water under and the sky above. A tranquil ocean under a gradient orange sky. Sun setting soon. Again, how do we see at night on the ship without fire? She didn't get more time to ponder on the question as the boat shook in a disturbing way. It was vibrating. Trembling as if it had caught a violent cold. Sofia had never been on a boat before today, but even to her it felt obvious that this wasn't something a boat usually did. The shaking only grew more and more intense, until, pushed by a thunderous column of water shooting out of the ocean, the boat got propelled into the sky. The boat cracked in many places, the split pieces, all connected by a thin net of internal roots, couldn't fly far. Under Zero's control, the broken parts seamlessly grafted themselves back to the hull. Alith had screamed in terror at the sudden propulsion and had unwillingly partly turned back into a ghost, barely managing to cancel the metamorphosis midway, hopefully before Zero could notice. Sofia wasn't faring any better. Despite not falling, she had still been struggling to keep any semblance of balance. The boat stopped going up. It had been propelled up and to the side, traveling a nice arc in the air. It was at the apex of the curve. Now it could only go back down. The right side of the hull hit the water. Sofia, who had managed to grab onto the captain's desk, felt it slip from her grip as the ship slammed into the ocean and rebounded, flying up and to the side again. It bounced 7 times like that, traveling smaller distances at every jump. until it slammed against a large wave one last time and finally settling down. The interior of the cabin was mostly untouched, even the cracks in the walls were being repaired by Zero's wood magic. Sofia and Alitha's tidy appearances were what took the greatest hit. Zero's skin was changing back, he was the first to break the silence of the aftermath. How'd you like the ride? Very nice, eh? Not any backwater old ship that can take this kind of a shortcut, we skipped at least half a day's travel right there, he bragged. It took Sofia a few seconds to calm her heart, she ignored Zero and turned to the still erratically breathing Alith. Are all people from your world like this? She said, still under the shock, but the Banshee was too stunned by the drift to even react. Bah! You saints don't know how to have fun. We even lucked out, nothing's here to greet us, we can feast in peace tonight. Zero exclaimed, slapping his belly twice. He walked up to Alith and brought a small open vial to her nose. It emitted a strong fragrance of plants that Sofia could smell from meters away. Whatever that was, it helped Alith calm down. Take your time in here, Crane will fetch you for the meal in half an hour if you ain't out by then. The first drift's always surprising, you get used to it, we won't take another one this trip if all goes well. Zero left the cabin. The sun shone unhindered on the group's first morning at sea. A fresh sea breeze carried the galleon forward on the gentle waves. Most of the pirate crew was relaxing on the main deck, playing dice or drinking. Captain Zero came out of the navigation room looking bored to death. His eyes lit up when he spotted Sofia on the deck. Hey! Acrobat Saintess, how about a little fight? One-on-one kinda deal. You up? He hollered out. Sofia had demonstrated her ability to not fall during the meal the previous night by climbing up and down the sail's cordings, earning her a new nickname among the crew. Damn ghost getting me drunk again. I'm not exactly a fighter, sorry. I fear I don't have a single attack skill that won't reduce your precious ship to a pile of smoldering ashes. No skills then, let's just punch it out. Also you sure talk yourself up a lot for someone who got drunk in 2 swigs last night. Won't do either. Fight Alith if you want, she can hold her own more than me. The midget can fight better than you? What a world we live in. Back in my days. Hoy who you callin' a midget, mate? Alith yelled from the other side of the deck. Wow, she didn't take long to adapt to the whole pirate speech. An arena ring had been set up on the main deck, the corners marked by 4 piles of cording. Rules were simple, no attacks that might endanger the crew or the ship's integrity, no killing blows, first to surrender or step out of the ring loses. A crowd had gathered around the 2 fighters, even the navigator was observing them from up on the quarter deck, still holding the wheel. A few unlucky sailors couldn't watch as they had to actually man the ship. On one side of the ring, a young dark-haired woman holding 2 brand new long mithril sickles, wearing a partial plate armor. On the other side, a large bearded man with tree stumps growing over his fists and sturdy bark covering his whole body. Everyone was excited to see the high-level people fight, a one-eyed pirate had even started taking bets. The odds were almost even, if slightly in Zero's favor. Maybe Alitha's demonstration of avoidance the previous night had impressed more than she thought. Sofia bet 10 gold on Alith. That was a good chunk of what they had left. If I don't show that I'm confident in her, then what kind of a friend am I? Go. You got this, Alith. You can't let a big-nosed tree man beat you up. What an unfair matchup for the lass, I hope I can teach her a thing or two. Geez, the commas have mithril blades? Can't block 'em then. Need to deflect. Zero shifted some of the wood covering his body to elongate his fist logs instead. I have to leverage my reach. Can't let her get too close with those. Though I'll still let her have the first shot. Up in the crow's nest, Kent rang the bell to announce the start of the round. Alith dashed forward, delivering a delayed double strike with her commas. Zero dodged the first with a backstep and slammed the second blade away with his left arm. The mithril blade sliced away a good chunk of wood without actually reaching the arm. That created an opening for Zero to throw a thundering kick with a bark-covered leg. The kick didn't connect. Alith used her parried blade's momentum to twirl to the side, avoiding the kick by a hair's breadth. Zero kept up the pressure with a series of heavy punches, each dodged by a prompt ballet step. Hard to reach. As Alith gracefully spun around the ring, her weapons also gyrated in her hands. Zero had a hard time predicting where she might try to hit next. Alith tried to close the distance, but she would always find a punch or a kick blocking her advance. She wasn't touched and managed to tag the pirate multiple times with the tip of her blades, but neither could land a real blow. This lasted long enough. Zero had pushed Alith to one side of the ring. He blocked her escape to the other side with his large body. She could only go backwards to escape his next straight punch. The captain used his whole body to give this decisive punch more momentum. Alith saw the hit coming. She could still backstep with her dance. As she jumped back, she let go of one of her blades. Zero's punch had left his legs unprotected. The weapon flew faster than the wood-covered fist, sinking deeply in the captain's thigh. As Zero's wooden fist looked like it would stop just a few centimeters short of Alith's bust, the wood on his arm violently expanded. The extra reach came too fast for Alith to react to, the massive log hitting her squarely on the chest plate. The young girl flew out of the ring in a devastating crash, hitting a bunch of crates a bit further. She laid lifeless in the debris, like a puppet whose strings had been cut, amidst a wave of exotic fruits rolling out of the broken boxes. Fuck. Did I kill her? He ran to the girl's side. Chapter 36, Incoming Funerals. Before Zero could reach the passed out Alith, the girl had been covered in a ray of bright divine light falling from the heavens. That was more than half her health in a single hit. I almost shat myself. Thank God I can watch her health points real time. Fucking pirate gonna hear me out about what a killing blow is. You okay, girl? Didn't mean to hit you that hard, the big man said to Alith, who was struggling with opening her eyes. He seemed ashamed of his performance. It's okay, don't worry, Sof's healing's no joke. Good match, Zero. Can ya help me up? Alith sounded a bit disoriented. Even with Zero holding her, she could barely stand straight. The healing had maxed her HP in seconds, but her senses were still swaying from the shock. Sofia had rushed through the ring to reach them. She wanted to talk, but Zero, who had been looking at the light around Alith that had also touched him, was the first to open his mouth. Your healing skill is single target. He pointed at the weapon still completely stuck in his leg. Not a hint of the blade was showing. It only heals the heroes I summoned myself. Can't even heal my own wounds. But you're free to try standing in the light if you don't believe me. Sofia almost spat at the bearded man. I'll heal myself then. No need to sound so angry, you drab saint. No one's dead, like. You hurt Alith a second time and I burned down your ship and everyone aboard. Mark my fucking words, you oaf pirate. Hey, it was you who said I should wrestle her, nah? You her mom or what? Calm down. It's not like y'all won't have to tank harder shit in the tower, so no need to make it such a big deal, Zero answered. He looked torn between different emotions, and eventually focused back on his leg that was still losing blood. It turned out he had a wood-related skill that let him close wounds by turning his blood to a thick sticky sap. That wasn't enough to prevent making a mess when he took out the sickle and he cried out in pain. The girls let the pirate crew help him with that while Sofia carried Alith to their cabin. Did you bet on me? Shit. Well, I got a better feel for avoidance with the new weapons, so it's not all that bad. That last hit was painful, but I've been through worse. The armor helped a ton, didn't even cave in. You overreacted a bit out there. Clearly you haven't seen your face if you think I overreacted, Sofia justified her previous outburst. If anything, she felt like she went too easy on Zero. She grabbed a handheld mirror from her bag and showed Alith her own bloodied face. She had bled from the 7 orifices, and not a few drops. Alith was shocked at how bad she looked. Okay. I still think you overreacted, but I'd have done the same if you came out looking like that. Whoa! I look like an actual banshee for once, she remarked while observing her head from every angle she could. Well, there's something very important I learned today, Alith continued after she had enough of gawking at herself. What would that be? Don't get hit. Hoi, stop acting like I'm dumb. But not far. Though it's more about you. Or our group, I guess. What I mean is, we need to have a real front line. Someone who can really take a hit. Our health points are too low. Parith is brittle too. Even with good armor, you saw what happens when I get hit. So we need your next summon to be a big tough undead or something like that. Sofia was considering Alith's input. I was hoping for some sort of a caster next, since you ended up going close quarter combat like Parith. If we manage to get Parith a larger skeleton. That's an option too, but what about fighting in small spaces? Just indoors in general would start being a problem then. True, well, I can only hope to get good keywords, also we're bound to get some good things with level 100, so the problem could also solve itself. Looking at the keywords I have left anyway. Available active skills. Dispel, dispels. Mist, in a thick mist. Soul, to the Necromancer's life force. Mass, dispels all magic in a. I suppose mass could be twisted into making a potential summon bigger. That's a bit far-fetched for making it a good front line. We can only wait and see, Sofia concluded, unenthusiastic about her odds of ever getting the skills she wanted. You don't have any more insight on other necromancer skills? Alith suggested. Not really, the book wasn't all that rich in knowledge and most pages were missing or partially torn. Out of everything mentioned, the last two were Aura of Death, that's what I got at level 80 I imagine, and Necrotic Pulse, which won't help us much here. Their discussion got interrupted by Crane knocking on the door. He was bringing a small bucket of clear water for Alith to clean herself with. It was a nice gesture considering how little water there was on the ship. The duo didn't come out of their cabin all day after that, eating some of their pre-packed food that was already starting to go bad instead of joining the crew's meals. What had started as a serious talk about party composition and skill management devolved through the hours. They ended up in the hammocks, sharing stories of their past, cradled by the rhythm of the waves, under the thin ray of moonlight piercing the room's only window. A soul has been harvested, soul value +1. What? Alith was surprised at Sofia's sudden silence. Something happened, she whispered. Yeah, remember Avatar of Death? Looks like I reaped my first, you know. Sofia whispered back. Right now? Didn't you have to actively do the thing? Guess not. Someone died on the ship right now, then? Are we under attack? Alith wondered. She tried to listen for any signs of unrest, but all she heard was the crashing waves below. Let's prepare and go check what's happening. Do I summon Parith? Don't risk it unless we're sure there's something. The armor should be enough for now. Can you help me get that on? The short girl asked as she struggled to get in her breastplate for the second time today. I'm really jealous of your armor skill. Yeah, well, please do get one too if you can. I never signed up to be your squire. You're the one who insisted I needed plate armor, aren't you? Shut up. It took a few minutes for Alith to be ready to go. Two fully armored women snuck out of their cabin. It was quite late, and the inner corridors of the ship were unlit. A lot of the pirates would be sleeping right now. Alith activated the light bracelet on her gauntlet. It was one of the few magic accessories they had bought in Drakran in preparation for the trip. Much better than carrying around a torch or relying on Parith's sword's glow. Alith pointed at the exit to the main deck. She wanted to check there first. They took caution to make little noise, which didn't work much. As they reached the deck, they found nothing out of place. About half the crew was still up to keep the boat moving through the night. In fact, they were the weird ones, showing up on the deck in armor at this hour, prompting a lot of curious looks from the sailors. Unabated, they made their way to the captain's cabin and knocked on the door. Don't just stand out there, hey, Come in. They weren't even through the door as Zero kept talking. You better now, girlie. Didn't permanently damage you, did I? I might, Captain. You knew it was us? Sofia asked, closing the door behind her. Good to hear. No one in the crew would knock before barging in. I have no privacy on my own vessel, deplorable. Zero was sitting kicked back behind his desk. He had been writing something before they interrupted. So, why the armor? What comes? So you don't know either. Someone died, Sofia coldly announced. Chapter 37, Ocean's Call. Who? Where? Zero's reaction was immediate. He was already up and ready to fight, his usual jovial smile nowhere to be seen. No idea to both. One of my skills notified me that someone nearby had died, happened almost 10 minutes ago, time to prepare and come here. We saw nothing on the way. The captain frowned at the explanation. This better not be some kind of prank, he spat out, Crane, his voice shook the book cabinet's glass panes. Then he entered a side room to ring a huge bell. In less than 5 minutes, the whole crew had assembled on the deck. Crane had been tasked to prepare some kind of special weapon in another side room just in case. Head count. Anyone missing? Zero shouted. The pirates looked at each other in incomprehension but obeyed nonetheless. They were all responsible for a different crewmate. Soon, one of them raised a worried voice, Kent. Kent isn't here. Everyone's first instinct was to look at the crow's nest up above. But it was currently the other barrelman's shift. Kent should have been sleeping in the common room right now. There was no way he didn't hear everyone else come up. Zero was quick to bring back order to the fidgety crowd of pirates. Night crew, back to your stations. Anyone idle look for Kent on the upper decks. The rest take care of the orlop deck. Search every crate if you need to. Jack, Emmer, Alith, Sofia, with me to the berth deck. We check every hammock first, then the cabins. Move it. Looks like he's not giving us a choice. That's what Alith agreed to for the free ride. Fine. I'd help search for the guy either way. 2 particularly muscular men armed with sabers and flintlocks joined their side as everyone else dispersed around the ship. They descended to the deck below, and checked every nook and cranny of the place, looking at any space a man could fit in. Sofia had a hard time staying here, it all reeked of sweat. It was the tanned man previously referred to as Jack that found something first. I got his clothes, he yelled from the back of the deck. Zero was the first to reach him. Looks like Kent's clothes indeed. Even his boots. A pair of old boots, pants, and a jacket were messily strewn on the floor near a half-open gun port. The cannon was misaligned to the side. Alith was next to join. Damn. You think he jumped? It was the other muscular guy that answered with a scornful look. Kent wouldn't do this. He's a coward but not. He started but was cut by Zero's large hand covering his mouth. No one talked for a second. Everyone looked at the captain. Sploosh. While they were focused on Zero, Jack had jumped out of the ship through the gun port. Shit. Zero cursed. Sirens, he shouted in an ear-rupturing roar. Find a rope and tie yourself up if you don't want to end up like them, he told the 3 of them. What about Jack? Emmer asked in a panic. A soul has been harvested, soul value +1. Too late, Sofia and Zero answered in sync. Sofia and Alith followed Zero up to the main deck. They weren't going to wait it out. Tell us more about the sirens, pressed Sofia as they all rushed to the captain's cabin. Zero didn't stop walking to brief them. Sea monsters. Levels in the 80s. Strong hypnotizing chants, hunt in large herds. They get you in the water, you're 1000% dead. I don't hear anything. Alith remarked. You won't until they target you. They all focus on one person and they empty the ship one man at a time. A soul has been harvested, soul value +1. A 3rd person died, Sofia chimed in. Fuck. Everyone on the main deck was hastily tying each other up to the masts and chains. To say everyone wore a look of terror would be an understatement. Zero's skin was turning to bark. As he rushed past them, roots would grow from the deck's planks and latch on the crewmen's legs. A soul has been harvested, soul value +1. The trio reached the side room Crane had gone to. The bosun had also somehow tied himself up, his ankle chained to a table and his hands tied behind his back. It was fortunate that he secured himself that way, as his eyes were white and foggy, and he furiously wriggled on the floor, fervently trying to reach the window. He was promptly encased in a web of roots. Zero grabbed a flask full of green liquid from a table covered in alchemy tools and decayed leaves that were also littering the floor. "You're both confident they won't get you?" the captain asked them while he struggled to open the flask. "It's hypnosis, right?" asked Sofia to confirm what he said. "No doubt," he reaffirmed. "Then we're fine." "You?" Alith said. "I'll be fine with this." He gulped down the green liquid, the bark on his body taking on a subtle green glow. Alith could barely stand in place. "What now?" she pressed them, her weapons already spinning around in her hands. "A soul has been harvested, soul value +1. The main event hasn't started yet. Seeing how the ship's still in one piece for now, the Queen shouldn't be above level 200. I'll go back down there and use these bad boys." He raised many roots from the planks around with a wave of his hand. "I'll try to keep every lesser siren from climbing up or straight up destroying the ship. I'll also relocate everyone else down there with me. You stay here and fight the Queen when she comes. When she's injured they'll all flee." "Good. The Queen's skills?" Sofia asked. "Strong attack magic, one element, random, pray it's not fire or we're dead meat." Zero was done with wasting time and with his explanation. He sank through the deck's planks, and so did everyone else except Alith and Sofia. As if the ship swallowed them all. Everything around them was eerily calm with everyone gone. The ocean was serene and the cool night breeze wasn't exactly foreboding. Sofia let Perith out of the storage. She reread his last upgrades, they hadn't been used much yet. Holy Skeleton allows the Saintesser to control Perith, the Holy Skeleton wielding the Holy Light of Gods. Perith will keep experience when switching host bones. Physical and magical capabilities are influenced by the current bones. Blessing, Perith gains bonus strength and health proportional to their body weight. LV.1, the Saintesser always knows where their Holy Skeleton is. LV.10, Perith boasts a glorious halo empowering holy-related skills. LV.20, Perith can create and wield a sword of holy light. Proficiency depends on the host bones. LV.30, Perith's bones are 92%, 1 * skill level, denser. LV.40, Perith's movements are 92%, 1 * skill level, quieter. LV.50, Perith can cast Consecrated Grounds, granting all allies in a 4-6m, skill level /2, area increased physical performances and defenses. Effect is doubled for skeletons. LV.60, Perith takes 23%, skill level /4, less damage from magical attacks. LV.70, Perith can now understand complex commands. LV.80, Perith deals double damage against the undead. LV.90, Perith's light weapon can now take many forms. Next function unlocks at class level 100. It was becoming hard to keep track of what bonuses he had exactly, main takeaway being that he got stronger and more versatile. The three warriors adopted a triangle formation, they had no idea what they were really up against. What's a siren anyway? Some kind of fish? And the Queen will show up on the deck? Her internal worries were silenced by 1,000 mental cries. The terrifying spell of all the monsters had chosen her as the next target. She wasn't at all affected by the hypnosis, which was as much a blessing as it was a curse. Because of it she had to actually hear the horrid synchronized wailing of the sirens. Blessing of the Deep reached level 18. She keeled over from the sonic attack. It went as fast as it had come. Alith hadn't even had time to react to the sound of her falling. A large shadow obstructed the light of the moon. Chapter 38, Queen. The next thing they all heard was a very real screech coming from above. The Siren Queen revealed herself as she plunged down onto them. Half fish, half bird, she was a four-winged abomination with a short curved beak on its fish head and a long trailing eel-like tail flailing around. The most disturbing part, however, was the distorted human-looking face, close-eyed and unmoving, embedded in its torso. The monster was large enough that it occupied half the main deck. Its landing had shaken the whole vessel. The main mast was broken at the base by the thing's reckless charge. The monster, who, doing so, had entangled itself in the cording, was struggling to free itself. The ropes were snapping one by one. "Oh! We're so fucked." Perith had approached to help Sofia stand up. They were currently standing between the front mast and the Siren Queen occupying the middle of the ship. "Alith, fly up as a ghost and try to land on its back, attack the wings. Perith will focus on dodging and keeping it occupied. I'm climbing the front mast." It was a bare-bones battle plan. Sofia couldn't think of anything better to deal with the monster. She didn't wait for an answer as she sprinted to the front mast of the galleon, slaloming around wooden debris, chains, and ropes. Identify didn't work, so at least it's still an animal. As she ran, she heard a loud crash. Blue light shone over the deck. Boom! Followed by sounds of splashing water. Perith's health had suddenly dropped by more than half. She summoned a thin ray of healing light on his position without even looking back. Water. At least it's not fire, but not that reassuring. This is still the ocean. The sounds of crashing water kept coming from behind, but Perith didn't take a hit. A shriek. Blue light. Pain. A compressed mass of icy cold water hit Sofia from behind with the power of a cannonball. She felt like an ice giant had slapped her in the back. Then her whole surroundings got drowned in water. The bone armor had cracked open like an egg and was struggling to repair itself. Health, 112/495. Fuck. Can't take another one. At least the attack had washed her away all the way to her goal. It was hurting all over, but she started climbing the mast's cording. Another shriek. It started raining. It wasn't a few drops. In a few seconds, a torrential downpour hammered the whole area, making it hard to even see or hear anything else. Sofia's hands and feet slipped many times on the way up. She had even discarded the armor to ease the task. It wouldn't allow her to survive another hit from the water attack anyway. Way of the Fool was the only reason she could rush towards the top of the mast like a frenzied monkey without a single care for her safety. The beast shrieked again and again. Every time, she panicked, imagining it was for her, but the dreaded water spell never came. At first it was Perith's life total that kept taking hits, miraculously never going down to zero. She had been using Heal Undead non-stop during the climb, but as she got higher, and the shrieks more frequent, Perith started taking less hits. It was hard to distinguish anything with the rain, but it seemed like Alith was doing a number on the Siren Queen. The only clear sight was the two eyes of the beast's torsal face producing flashes of deep blue light before every time it used the water attacks. At first, Sofia only wanted to get high enough to cast Angel's Bolt, but it seemed foolish knowing how easily the siren could shoot her down in a single attack. She kept climbing higher and higher. Only when she reached the crow's nest did she stop, unable to continue. That has to be enough. Man, I can never get used to jumping from so high. Even the knowledge that she would slowly glide down thanks to her ring didn't make the vertigo and apprehension go away. She had jumped like that hundreds of times in Zangdar, yet it was still as bad as the first time. This time was particularly bad with the torrential rain, the wind, and the boats rolling. She couldn't waste any time being afraid. Alith's health had just taken a large dip. With the last cast of Heal Undead from a distance, she jumped forward. The smooth and slow gliding provided by the ring was taking her towards the rampaging Siren Queen. The rain helped camouflage Sofia somewhat, but she doubted it would hide the incoming lightning. Her last cast of Heal Undead had covered a large area, she had kept it up until now even though it was a large drain on her mana. She only needed to have enough for one bolt anyway, if the thing survived it, then it would never let her cast another. As she silently floated a dozen meters above the monster, she held her right hand up high. Impressive water balls, birdfish. Now let me show you what a level 99 Angel's Bolt can do. A blue spark of electricity appeared in her grasp. 10 seconds until it was ready. She reactivated her bone armor. Drifting further and further away from the monster, she focused her will on the growing lightning spear that shook and pulsated even wilder than usual under the pouring rain. 8 seconds. The siren noticed. The massive birdfish abomination crouched down, spreading its wings. It was going to take off, and it was looking straight at Sofia. Pin it down. Plant the sword in the talons. Perith must have executed the order as the siren shrieked again, in pain or in rage, and it turned back. Sofia didn't know exactly what had happened, but Perith's health had gone from 100% to 0. The hero, Perith, has succumbed. That was a message she had never seen until now. 6 seconds. Alith had taken advantage of this opportunity to escape from the fight. She was sprinting in Sofia's direction, she needed to get away from the incoming blast. The condensed lightning bolt was reaching a decent size. The siren once again started to crouch down. 4 seconds. As it looked like it would take flight. The eyes on the siren's torsal human-shaped face shot open instead. With them came a strong flash of blue light. It was a feint. The attack wasn't a simple water ball like the other times, it was a concentrated ray of water, shooting straight for Sofia, cutting through the air at a terrifying speed. Sofia's heart almost missed a beat. She could only do one thing, cut the slow fall ring's mana supply. The sudden free fall allowed her to drop down faster and barely out of the attack's path. She activated the slow fall again. The start made her sick, but she held on. If only I could send the attack before I finish charging it up. 2 seconds. The Siren Queen looked like it wanted to fly off for real this time. Just as it flapped its 4 webbed wings to lift off, the bolt struck. A direct hit. A thunderous explosion shook the boat. Sofia was too close to the blast. The last thing she saw was Alith tackling her as she fell from the air, mana-less. As her armor broke and reformed until it couldn't anymore under the violent damage, her consciousness disappeared in a scorching wave of flames. Ding! You have defeated Siren Queen, leave 180. Chapter 39, Adrift. The sun gently caressing my face, the peaceful rumble of the waves, a warm and soft lap pillow. Sofia opened her eyes. She was welcomed by a spotless blue sky and the sharp face of a certain black-haired banshee. Would you look at that, the slumbering god of thunder is finally awake, she said, leaning down, bringing her face closer. I'm glad you survived too, mighty human form gardening tool. Alith pretended to be offended. First thing in the morning you're already calling me a shovel? Not everyone wants to carry huge jugs around all day, HMMPF. It took Sofia a second to compute all that, then she burst out laughing. I meant a sickle, I swear, she managed to get out between 2 fits of laughter. Alith laughed too, you're the sickle. Your whole family's the sickle, she riposted, pretending to try to cast Sofia off into the ocean. They laughed like this for a while. The stress and worry that had haunted them during the battle melted away. Can I sit up? Sofia asked after they both calmed down. Are my poor bony legs too rough for the Saintess? Come on, yo, Sofia started, but she was cut off. You can, but we need to shift the weight back a bit before, or we'll keel over. Okay. They awkwardly wiggled around, then Sofia could finally sit upright and get a better look at their current situation. It was not good. 2 women on a small wooden board, stranded in the middle of the ocean. Not a single thing in sight besides water. No water, no food, barely any clothes, even. Boy, are we in trouble. I feel like I can guess what happened, but just in case, Sofia mumbled, still looking around. And I feel like we've already been there, but anyway. You throw lightning, siren go boom, boat go boom, I protect you from the explosion, somewhat. Better thank my immunity to heat, your armor and your fireproof vest thing, you barely survived with all that between you and the heatwave. Alith took a breath to keep explaining. We end up in the water, me mostly good but you lacking a lower body, dragged you on this piece of wood from the shipwreck, we drift away, dragged by the currents while the ship sinks. The sirens fled when the queen died, so that's a good thing. Most of the pirates survived the initial blast, I think, but I quickly lost M from sight in the storm. Then here we are like, what, 9 hours later, she enumerated, lifting a finger at each point. Not looking good, et. Sofia synthesized. Not bad actually, Alith denied with a smirk. Look, we have some rainwater, she triumphantly declared, holding out a glove from her armor that was plugged by a piece of leather cloth. I collected rain in my helmet at first, but it was too unstable to carry with the waves, so it's in there now. Want a drink? Whoa, I can't believe you thought that far ahead while also saving my ass. I'm honored you would share, Sofia thanked Alith. It's all for you actually, I'm still an undead, right, I'll be fine without water. And about saving your ass, you have no idea. I had to regrow it, I'll have you know. Thank you, really, Alith. Sofia grabbed Alith's hand to express her thanks, then she grabbed the glove and drank the lukewarm water in slow sips. And so that's why I'm wearing your gambeson as a makeshift skirt. Speaking of which, the stranded duo certainly looked the part. Sofia was wearing her fireproof gloved hoodie, with half a shredded gambeson rolled around her waist, that was it. Alith had it slightly better, her inner cotton pants and shirt had survived, albeit ripped in places by the siren's claws. The plate armor was all but gone, only a lone pauldron remained as well as the water glove. Sofia rejoiced that at least all of their magic items had survived, as well as Alith's weapons. Well, we can only hope that someone will find us. Wait, can't we teleport to Zangdar? Sofia asked. Nope, raft's too small for the teleportation circle. No need anyway. There's a piece of good news I've kept from you. What is she coming up with this time? Actually, we're drifting towards the towers. At this pace, we'll be there in a day or two. They had talked for a bit, debriefed how the fight against the siren went, each recounting their point of view of the events, and eventually, with nothing else left to do, Sofia looked through her system message. Blessing of the Deep reached level 18. Heal Undead reached level 55. Blessing of the Deep reached level 19. Heal Undead reached level 56. Holy Skeleton reached level 93. The hero, Perith, has succumbed. You have defeated Siren Queen, leave 180. You have murdered Jarvo, Sailor, leave 42. You have murdered Alistair, Carpenter, leave 38. You have murdered Eskin, Cannoneer, leave 65. You have murdered Vayan, Sailor, leave 52. A soul has been harvested, soul value +1. 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 Well, can't be helped. I couldn't hold back against the siren. I'm almost pleasantly surprised that only 4 died if I really sunk the ship even. Rest in peace, I guess. Not too sure how that works since I harvested their souls. Am I the bad guy? As long as I don't go around purposely killing people. Sorry. Damn bird was level 180, can you believe that? Alith answered with a disgusted look, don't call that a bird, you're insulting their whole race. Or are all strong animals in your world fucking disgusting like that and the Phagiids? You'd call a Phagiid an animal? I mean. Oh, by the way, you probably couldn't see with the rain, but I'll say that, level 180 or not, the mithril blades don't joke around. Don't think your lightning did all the work, cause me and Perith hit it good before you came in. I almost chopped off a wing with these babies, Alith recounted, swinging her weapons around. Maybe don't play around with those while we are still stuck on a cramped piece of wood. TSSK. Can't have fun with you around. Should have left you to drown. Please proceed to the trial site, Saints Tower of Vakaragan, distance, 38003 m. Please proceed to the trial site, Saints Tower of Vakaragan, distance, 38002 m. Please proceed to the trial site, Saints Tower of Vakaragan, distance, 38001 m. Please proceed to the trial site, Saints Tower of Vakaragan, distance, 38000 m. It had been a few hours since Sofia woke up. The makeshift raft traveled a meter every 2 seconds. Staring at the distance counter was all they could do. Sofia. I'm bored. Alith was laying down like a starfish on the raft, hands and feet touching the water. Sofia was doing the same right beside her. Oh, that's just it. For a second I thought you wanted to poop, you scared me. She was answered by a short arm weakly being thrown over her chest. Can't have a single bit of personal space in here, terrible bed, no meals. Overall bad experience, I rate this in a 1 out of 10. At least it only smells of salt. She glanced at the message again. Please proceed to the trial site, Saints Tower of Vakaragan, distance, 37991 m. Sofia sighed. They could already spy hints of an island on the horizon. Or maybe that was their imagination. Chapter 40, Towers. Around noon the next day, the raft reached the so-called Safen Islands. But the scenery wasn't what they had expected it to be. The Safen Islands were supposed to be 3 small islands neighboring the towers. They hosted a few villages that lived off of fishing and trading. Sofia and Alith had noticed for a while that something was very wrong. But seeing it from afar wasn't the same. There were no islands. Only 3 large banks of sand turned glass, riddled with burnt holes. Nothing else. Did a sudden meteor shower destroy everything here? The islands had been pummeled flat by some extraordinary power. It gave them the chills. At least they found some rainwater accumulated in the craters, which allowed them to drink, but this wasn't the sight they had signed up for. It was foolish to think anything other than water, sand, and glass could be found in this hellscape. So much for having a celebratory meal and buying new clothes. Alith seemed more dejected about the lack of food when she technically didn't even need to eat. Looks like a natural disaster of some kind, Alith guessed. She stomped on the ground, causing small cracks to form on the layer of glass. More like a dragon attack. There's nothing left at all of the islands. Weren't there supposed to be like 800 people living here? Did something try to destroy the towers? Is destroying the system's things something that people do? I guess you could stop people from leveling up if you broke them, if you want to keep all the top spots. Or it's maybe people who reject the system. Never heard of anyone rejecting the system, doesn't really make sense. Would you reject breathing? Just saying. People where I'm from like to reject stuff a lot. But, whatever happened, doesn't change that we're stranded here. The towers are our only out at this point. Better pray they survived whatever that was. Cooley did say we couldn't really bring anything in there anyway. I don't think I'll survive for long here without food. Maybe our level 100 skills can give us a way out. The towers aren't anywhere to be seen though. What if they got destroyed like the islands? Then we're fucked. But the message still says it's right here, 40 meters away. She moved around to figure out in which direction exactly. On our right? That's in the water. Alright then, going for a swim. What could possibly go wrong? Alith sighed and was going to enter the water, but she stopped herself. Actually I'll float there, should be in range, you wait for me here. Just like that, Alith turned incorporeal and flew away at a leisurely pace, that Sofia knew to be her max speed. She went forward like this for a little while. She disappeared? Alith had still been visibly floating through the air just a second ago. Now she was nowhere to be seen. Did she phase out of existence? Her life points didn't budge. She reappeared an instant later, and was standing in place, signaling for Sofia to come. Turns out I'm the one that's going for a swim. At least the water isn't too cold. The half-gambeson that was tied around her waist didn't survive the trip. She could only helplessly let it sink. Alith had disappeared again. She reappeared to check on Sofia's progress. Hey, what happened to Alith started? Don't look, okay. Sofia cried out, momentarily stopping. Okay, just come, you're almost there. And I'll have you know that your lower half was regrown by my very own healing spell. And your makeshift skirt didn't land there by itself either, so. Shut up. Alith shook her head and disappeared again. I'm never riding another boat again after this. The sea sucks. Her inner complaints were interrupted by the sudden appearance of the towers. Sofia involuntarily stopped swimming again. She had crossed a boundary, she couldn't feel it but she knew from the view ahead. That's the towers? She blinked several times, not believing what she was seeing. If Zangdar already looked out of this world, these three towers looked straight up fictional. They were made of clear white stone and featured incredible architectural details, arches, statues, spikes, pillars, all lined in gold. The walls were so detailed one could spend a lifetime looking at them and not be done observing it all. But the wildest feature was undoubtedly the dizzying fact that they seemed to have no end. Like three pillars placed in a triangle formation, piercing the heavens and the space beyond. How something like that could even exist was beyond Sofia's understanding, let alone how they were hidden behind an invisible boundary. Sofia looked at Alith then at the towers again. Doesn't that shock you too? She said, pointing at the sky. Very shocking, almost like being summoned from another world or something. Never experienced that. I'm left without words, Alith deadpanned. Each tower sported a closed double door just above sea level, as well as a few steps leading there from the water. Well, let's do this. We go as planned, Sofia broke the silence. Sofia swam to the farthest tower and Alith followed. It was the Saint's tower. Since Alith's level was tied to Sofia's, they thought maybe they could stay together and cheat the system. She was technically a part of her skill set after all. And they both felt that it was unsafe for Sofia to go without Perith, but they couldn't source a complete skeleton stranded at sea like this. They opened the doors, a large round hall bathed in darkness awaited beyond. Alith tried to go first but she was denied entry. A system message said so. They could only have a parting hug and pray for each other's success. Whoever comes out first waits here for the other. If Cooley didn't lie, we'll be out around the same time in a few weeks. Don't come out too early and die of hunger or something. To our level 100. To our level 100. They shared a last firm handshake. Sofia watched as Alith floated back to another tower. She had tried going through the walls but that unsurprisingly didn't work. Sofia stepped into the obscurity of the hall. The heavy stone doors closed behind her. You have entered, Saint's Tower of Vakaragan. As she hesitantly stepped forward, the walls lit up with golden magical light. It started from the floor and progressed up the walls. So it's hollow. The sound of her bare feet hitting the ground echoed through the tower as she approached the center of the empty hall. Sofia's sight lost itself in the distance, her eyes followed the light as it rippled all the way to the end of her vision up the tower. The light faded like it had come and Sofia once again stood in the dark. Going by Cooley's explanation, she would lose consciousness now and that would mark the start of the trial. She sat down in the center of the hall and braced herself. Nothing happened. Has my broken class messed with the tower too? A light came from above this time. An unnerving, cold, blinding light. And it was coming closer. Sofia scrambled to get up, she stepped back all the way to the door, She even instinctively tried to open it and escape, but it wouldn't budge. She couldn't stop her gaze from shifting towards the light. Something had descended. It was a blurry humanoid figure made of golden light. Points shone like stars from inside its translucent body. It was shaking and twisting, appearing and disappearing. It was like it existed in several different positions at the same time, none making sense from a human's anatomical point of view. Merely looking at it was giving Sofia a piercing headache. Broken parts of its blurry silhouette popped in and out of existence. She only knew one fact for sure. It was looking at her. This thing made Sofia feel like her entire understanding of the world had been wrong. Like the universe wasn't actually what she had thought it was. The thing's appearance only evoked one feeling: dread. Every fiber of Sofia's being told her that this creature, whatever it was, shouldn't exist. She had the intuition that it could erase her with a single thought. She used to identify, again and again, but it was also acting up. No matter how many times Sofia asked, it only said one thing. One terrifying word: Archangel.